Hi everyone, welcome to the second session of our December and Christmas Siteglide Town Hall 2024. Hope you're all well. Thanks for joining. Yeah, we had a good session this morning with a few people regarding just catching up on the year, understanding what we could be doing better potentially, any wins, that kind of stuff, and demoing something that we've got planned for next year. It'd be great to get your ideas on that, but most importantly, talk about where we can improve, what you'd like to see, those kind of things. And probably one of the biggest things come out of that was making sure we're aligned on roadmap as well, making sure that we understand what the most important things are on your side. We've already got some ideas on how to improve that. So it'd be great to discuss your thoughts and see what improvements we can make. So yeah, where would you guys like to start? We're going to do this. We don't really have a big presentation or anything like that this time. Would you guys like to jump in with anything? Or would you rather I share first?
Yeah, I mean, I can share a couple wins on the year if this
Yeah,
is a good time to do
always
so.
good.
Um, yeah, I mean, like we've continued to like our agency model. We typically been working with the same clients for a long time. We've acquired a few new ones, but not like a high volume of new clients. And um, but what's cool about that is that we get to, you know, really know the businesses really well. And then like as they evolve, we're able to offer new things. And it's not like I go and pitch stuff to them. They're coming to me and saying like, I want to do this thing. So an example in the last couple months was one of our clients wanted to do an online summit, uh, a panel of experts. It was the topic was parenting, neuroscience and parenting, and they had like 20 experts, subject matter experts that they wanted to bring together, and they wanted to pre-record a set of interviews with each of these 20, and then roll those interviews out like over a summit, which was like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, that kind of thing. Um, so they wanted to sort of like preload these things. They wanted to have sales pages. They wanted to offer free tickets that you just give your email address, which adds you to a list, and you get access. Um, Other people, they wanted to charge money for like VIP access, which would give you instant access to all of the recordings forever. And that was cool to do. There was scheduling involved in the sense of like, the order in which presenters were showing and detail views, and each of the presenters had like a free gift that they were giving as being part of the summit. So it's like a number of moving pieces here. Um, and we were able to say yes to all of it and even present some things that they hadn't considered, whether it was countdown timers or it was like being able to look up who was signing up's email address in the CRM on the fly and figure out, do they have an account already? If they do, let them sign in with an existing password. If they don't, have them create an account. It's just stuff like that. It was really successful. So we were able to hit all the deadlines, but also they had a very successful event. I think probably exceeded their expectations a little bit. We also did some stuff around affiliate tracking. So each of the 20 experts were referring to their audiences, hey, go check out this summit that I'm going to be at. And we were tracking like which of those referrals were generating paid customers. Um, Technically, that worked very well. I think we learned a couple things on the marketing side about how to make that more effective next time. But yeah, it was a great example of like, yeah, we can do that. Yep, we can do that. Yes, we don't need a third party plugin for that. We can, it was just quite a bit of yeses down the line, and it was accomplished in almost like a month. Everything was created from scratch in about a month. And now the client can use this again as many times as they want. If they want to do this annually, twice a year, whatever they want to do with it. So there's a lot of value there. So that's just a illustration of something that we were able to do with Siteglide that was great.
Very cool. I think you've got a affiliate module, haven't you? So you've used that, I think, for this.
Yeah, we built that, and affiliate tracking is really tricky. I mean, I don't really like even the idea of it, but it's requested. And the challenge is cross-device tracking, right? That's the biggest challenge. And we don't have like a solution to cross-device tracking. I haven't really come across a great one in the marketplace either. But one thing that we learned was like what we need to do is right now we're currently just tracking purchases. And in an event like that, where a lot of people are signing up for free, they're clicking the affiliate link and then they're just signing up for the free ticket. We need to track those as well so that we can go to the person and say, hey, you drove like no purchases, but you got 200 free people to sign up on our list, and that's valuable. And whatever. Maybe they don't get anything for that, but they at least gets tracked. Currently, all we can say is, oh, sorry, you didn't generate any paid purchases. And that's a little disappointing when we can tell them you drove 2,000 people to the site, but no purchases. There's like nothing else to tell them, that. And so affiliate tracking is really tricky. I will say I learned a lot about it in this process,
Is it
and it's hard.
is it that you need an event then for the sign up instead of an event just for the purchase, or is there a technical limitation on
Well,
that?
the way our module works, it tracks like it'll record the person's affiliate ID in local storage in the browser. So it's in there persistently, but it only gets recorded into the form if it's a payment form. And so what we could do is just add another field to the free form for
Yeah,
that
cool.
affiliate. I mean, it's really simple. It's a really simple solution. And then it'll show up in the reports as like $0, but it will at least show up as a thing.
Yeah,
So,
nice.
um, yeah, if you can talk any of your clients out of affiliate tracking, you should do that. But we couldn't do that in
Mm.
this case. That was a challenge.
Awesome. You built that all in Siteglide, Devin?
Yeah, 100%. Yep. Site gurus and us. Yep, it was great. And it was nice. I mean, a good percentage of the work we were able to do ourselves in house, and then the more technical bits we just leaned um on site gurus.
What about an option, Devin, or anybody? Um, has anybody been asked to track a person's particular location and then serve up a special notification based on their location, kind of sort of? Like I have a client right now, they're a worldwide ministry. Their main office headquarters is in the US, and I host and maintain their US based website, and about 1,000 products are sold or are available in their store. But they also have other, I guess you could say, branches around the world. And there's two other branches in particular, one in New Zealand and one in Australia, that have developed their own websites, their own web presence. And so they came to us and they asked us, hey, is there a way that if somebody, in our country goes to your website, the US based website, that you could show them some sort of pop-up redirecting them to our website, kind of thing. And at first I was like, well, why would we want to do that? But in actuality, for physical products, it really does make more sense for the buyer to have the product shipped to them within their own country, because it costs like an arm and a leg to ship them from the US, kind of thing. So from that perspective, I kind of agree, but I was trying to think through how to achieve that kind of sort of.
I
Yeah, so
think
there's a couple of tools out there that you can use that use your IP address. We've implemented that on a couple of sites before, I believe it's a free tool actually. It gives you their rough location. It's not going to be like, it'll be like state level, not necessarily like their town or something like that. But you will get a rough location for it. And then you can use that to inference, well, should they stay on this site or should they not? And then similar to what Devin was saying with the affiliate tracking, you can store where their location is, and if they've agreed to stay on the site, or if they've said no, I want to go across to XYZ, and then you can automatically redirect people to those pages. Another good thing to have as well is a switcher somewhere, so that people say if they might be based in the UK, for instance, but they might be buying something for one of their family members that lives in America, and so they'd want
Right.
this site.
Yeah.
So always allow people the option to do it if they want to as well.
Yeah, don't make it a forcible rule,
Yes.
so to speak. Give them the option to choose where they want to go. Yeah. All right.
That's definitely
I know
it.
Helen's done quite a bit with cookies, and one of her tools is location based tracking while being able to take that data. I also thought, Josh, I thought that was a platform where I saw I thought we had a location tool we could use already built in, but maybe not. But yes, otherwise, Helen's, that might be something to look at.
Unaware of that specifically. It might be available, but
I feel like we do it somewhere. I'll look into that, DJ, and I'll let you know if I find it. But otherwise, yeah, definitely have a look at the module that Helen's built.
Yeah. Sounds good. Thanks.
Oh, yeah, an interesting one. Hopefully the answer is always yes. Sometimes easier than others.
Yeah. I mean, just have Josh do it, right? That's what I say
Yeah.
at the end of the day. Just have Josh do it.
Well, we like to teach as well, so either way.
Yeah, I might be pinging you on that, Josh. Show me a couple of things. Yeah.
Yeah, not a problem. We've got stuff that we've already built as well, so it should be a relatively quick and easy one to do.
So not to
I would
steer
also.
off. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, DJ.
Not to steer off here, but while I've got you, Josh, because these days it's very kind of difficult to get your undivided attention, right? um, did you understand the Pro Tools thing that I
Yes,
was talking about?
I think it's probably just going back to him and saying, look, it's probably you're not going to have an issue with this. The registration system was built in a way so that it is very secure, and it's generally the best way to go about it. We can definitely do it the other way, but I just don't see any need for it, because it works as it is, and we would know if it was an issue. And so, yeah, the browser will also, once they submit that form, it will ask them to save the username and password as well, because there is a redirection there as well. So they should have that saved anyway. So I really don't think it would be an issue for you. But we can move it to a different thing, but it's just a waste of time, really, in my eyes.
Well, I was thinking of just taking it back to the built-in Siteglide form, because the plain basic payment form that I could set up would allow me to use workflow notifications, which I could send a receipt, because we were having issues with Stripe not sending receipts for people, certain people, not everybody.
Yeah.
And then obviously it could be set to subscribe to the secure zone, Although actually, now that I think about it, because we have 5 different secure zones, we can't use just one form like we are now,
You'd
right?
need
So
to.
that would be the other variable. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
We can also, we should have a form somewhere, but I can trigger those workflow notification emails from the Stripe webhook that we've got built in. So if that was something we wanted to do, I think that's probably a better time invested.
Okay. Yeah, we can continue that conversation over there on the thread. But
Yeah, not a problem.
anyway.
I was
Sorry,
just gonna
Devin, go
say,
ahead.
I was just gonna say that we've also had more time in other systems in the last couple of months, like kicking around in discovery or whatever in people's like web WordPress sites, Webflow sites. There's this other one called Final Site that is like a kind of marketed towards educational institutions. And like I just continue to be like shocked at how old these things are. I mean, they're so creaky. Specifically the UIs are super old, but also the speed with which the admins work, the speed with which the front ends work is really like not good enough. And also the ability to import and export data is like really challenging. WordPress you can do it, but in several of these others, it's like there's either limitations or there is no export. And so if you were going to rebuild a site, you just need to go scrape the front of everything and put it into a web app. So I don't know. That's just another little 2 cents on the, I think Siteglide's moving in the right direction. There's, there's advantages to the system stability and speed wise too. That I appreciate, I guess there's things that can be improved and we'll talk about those, but that is something I'm noticing for sure.
Is that mainly just from a egress perspective?
From a what?
An egress perspective, as in like leaving the platform forever.
Just data management.
Yeah.
You mean like people that want to leave the existing platforms?
Yeah. Do they make it particularly
Yeah,
difficult?
like or they just need a new site and they're open to being, they're open to being like a suggestion
Moved
to
to
an
another platform
alternative,
or
but
something.
yeah, but
Yeah.
they just don't like, or they have like an existing IT person who's invested heavily in this one thing that they built all their stuff on, and it's really hard to, I mean, you have to be smart in how you have the conversations and who you have them with. You're not going to have them with that IT person. That's not going to go anywhere. So like it's a but yeah, if they're seeking solutions, like in a couple of the cases, I'm trying to be vague here, like I'm not trying to identify who I'm talking about, but in a couple of the cases, like there was like so much front end performance issues um that they're just like, well, what can we do to improve these? I'm like, I don't know, because your CMS doesn't actually let you alter anything in the head section, or like you have no visibility into code at all. It's just running on this platform and it's very much designed so that you won't break anything, but it's also does not alternatively give you access to the code to like improve performance at all. So or there's like a plugin for an Instagram feed, for example, and it works with this system, but it's incredibly inefficient. It like is causing 70% of the slowdown on your homepage. And so they're like, well, what can we do about that? I'm like, you can turn off the plugin. Like there's nothing else you can do because you can't actually insert custom code into your thing. And you have to use whatever thing that they've given you, which you've also incidentally paid an insane amount of money for, like as an add-on. Like I'm increasingly convinced that a lot of these platforms are strictly like their business model is based on like the pain of switching, right? It's like it's too great.
Oh yeah.
There's too much technical debt. And they're just like, well,
Right.
I mean, now there's 1,000 pages. Like, what are we gonna do? Like, we're just gonna keep doubling down on this thing. And some people will leave it, but there's enough people where the pain is too great. So I don't know. We're trying to
So
find ways. Yeah.
do you take on clients, Devin, when they insist on using their current technology stack? Or do you make it a
No.
requirement that if you take them on as a client, that they have to use your tools? In other words, you have to move them
Yeah.
off of their stack onto your stack. Do you make that a requirement, or do you work with clients on their own?
Yeah, no, we don't. We wouldn't do that. In the cases like that, the examples I'm giving you, yeah, it would be like we can help you if we can if we can use the tools that we're experts in, and we're experts in these specific tools, and these are the reasons we chose those tools. Does that sound good to you? And most of them are like, yes, that sounds good. Also, a lot of those legacy creaky tools are very expensive. And require like 1 year contracts for like $17,000. You're like, what are you paying $17,000 for? Like, or more? I mean, $50,000 I've encountered. So yeah, no, we don't. I mean, as badly as I would even want to work with some of those people, they would have to make the commitment to like, I mean, update. They'd have to be in a place and timing and budget and all that where they could invest in rebuilding. We don't like, yeah. And also, I always use the word rebuilding, not refresh, not like uh
Migration.
transfer. I don't know what other variations like we've all used, right?
Migrate.
Yeah, migrate, dude. There you go. Migrations, terrible term. Don't use it. God, that's just setting you up for disaster.
Right.
So yeah, it's I really think there's a really big sky out there for, because a lot of these companies have like they have large budgets, they've invested like very well in a niche, and they've acquired a lot of market share, and then they're just counting on that pain. They're counting on that pain to sort of, and I need two, three, five, 10, whatever. I don't need 2,000 for my business to work. It's just, it's a different business model. So, um,
Yeah.
also their support's criminally bad. I mean, like getting a hold of technical support, can be really, really frustrating in some of these cases. One of the most recent ones I encountered was like they're paying like whatever, some support agreement, and then they would talk to the platform. It'd be like if I talked to Luke, right? It'd be exactly the same, or Matt, one of the Matts, like, hey, like we need support on Siteglide. So support on platform X, and then oftentimes the support would be like, yeah, that's not something you can do, but we could build it for you for $5,000, or we could build it for you for $10,000, like this new feature. Um, those were direct quotes multiple times in a single year that they got, and then they just had to decide, well, I guess we won't do that. Um, so yeah. That's probably enough vague talk. I'm not getting specific with like names and whatever, but at least it gives you a sense of like what I'm seeing in the marketplace. Like, I think there's a lot of fertile ground. Like it's just how can you find the right conversations to be in? That's where it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's good to hear that hopefully we're doing quite a bit right, and thanks for the wins. That's really, really good to hear. I guess on to what we could do better, maybe, unless anybody's got anything else on the wins side of things. But yeah, let us know what anything that's like sort of top of mind that you'd like to discuss. Otherwise, I've got something that we're working on that I can show at any point.
Let's see it.
Yeah. So I showed this straight away in this morning's call, and feedback was very positive, but the question was sort of like, well, we don't want you guys to steer away from the roadmap and what we're already kind of waiting on. So just to be clear, anything we're looking at is planning for next year. It's the next things we can move on to, but it does not interfere with anything we know we either we've already agreed to do or we know is a really important feature. And I think the thing that came out of that earlier meeting is we do need to all get together on regularly on the roadmap top 10, I guess you'd call it, or we still need to work out how to do it. But there's the roadmap website, which has, I think when we looked earlier, 258 items in it. And that's a bit noisy at the moment. It's hard to know exactly. There's some in there that people identified that really actually are quite important, and they're buried away. So we'd love to make some of those come out a bit, like bulk editing, bulk edit options. So bulk enable, disable, silly little things like that should be there. As people said, they are core features that should be there, and potentially other platforms have. So we want to make sure we don't miss those kind of things, and we want to get back on top of that kind of stuff. But also, there's no harm in looking at the vision of where to take the platform and how we can make it better. I think the key topic on that, what I'm about to show, is around like, and it was an interesting discussion because there's a lot to consider here, but developer experience, agency experience, client experience, like all the pieces of the puzzle, trying to make sure that we consider everybody. And I think up until now, we've obviously really very much focused on agencies running things, but probably developers having free reign to build things. And that will always be somewhat our primary focus, because our main aim is flexibility, and the kind of things that you said, Devon, about being able to say yes. We'll always try and make sure you can say yes, but now we want to try and look at how we can help you do it quicker, more easily, and probably get other people involved. So not always rely on a developer to do simple changes, building out landing pages, that kind of stuff. We'd love to make it a little bit easier for either your teams or your customers, should you give them the user controls. And obviously going very granular on user permissions means you've got total control. So with that preface, I'll show you what we've been trying to think internally about how we can really make that step. I think if we were to analyze where we are, we've got powerful platform, and we've got some tools that help, but some of them are a little disjointed. So if you're using Site Builder as an example, the process of building with Site Builder is quite disjointed. You have to go to one place, then you have to go back to Studio, and we've got a lot of the infrastructure, we just haven't necessarily tied it together in an easy way to manage. So let's do a quick demo. This, by the way, is very early stages, and it's just to give an idea. We want you guys involved at every early stage, like every stage we can possibly think of, to try and make sure we get this right, because we don't want to go in the wrong direction. But all I've done for now is, this is in Figma, so it's literally just a few designs hooked up. All I want to show is where we are with Studio and the kind of evolution of how I think that could help massively. So the Studio layout, but rather than it be that you have to go into CMS, then pages, go into a page, go into Studio, and then only be able to do certain things in there. Like currently it's Webflow-esque in terms of being able to edit content, but also the downside of being able to break code, add styling in there, like it'll play around with the CSS potentially. Those kind of things you might not want to always do, and there are times when you will want to do it, which we'll talk about, and we talked about this morning. So I think the two key bits that are missing from that experience currently is being able to work with dynamic content, which we've always wanted to do, and being able to work with like structured content. So you can edit content, not code, which has always been our saying. We've always wanted this from when we were on BC, trying to build our own kind of way of working on top of BC. It was always trying to make sure that the customer and the agency can build something, put a page together or whatever, and let the editor, let the person editing just edit the content, not break the code. So let's have a quick look at that. So on the left hand side, you can insert sections. So this is still a sort of site builder concept, but really actually it's just the concept of having some predefined layouts that you can work with. Currently in Studio, they're on the right-hand side, but this would give us a lot more freedom to switch between different types of content, so sort of static and dynamic. We quickly look at a static section. If we put this one in page, currently in Studio, when you do this, you can edit in the visible page area. The good thing is it's quite intuitive, it's quite flexible, because then you can change quite a lot. The downside, as I said, is that you can end up breaking things, or your customer can end up making the site look very, very different to how you intend, and then they might sort of go, well, can you fix it for us? So the idea of this is we separate content from code, and we use JSON to sort of structure things. So in your layout, if you are building layouts, or if you're just using ours, the layout would have some predefined tags, exactly like how we've taken the concept of dynamic content, really taken the concept of web apps, blogs and modules and everything, where you would just in the layout, you would put title as the tag, description, image, and button. And then in the right-hand side, you've got your editing experience. So the customer or developer or marketing person, whoever it might be, can come in and manage the content. As discussed earlier in this morning's call, very limited in the sense that if you want to add a new button or if you want to change any of the styling, you can't. That has its positives and it also has its negatives. So one of the ways we can overcome that is we can have some like structured components that make it a little bit more dynamic. So there might be a button here saying add secondary button or add whatever it might be, add another paragraph, and that would allow you to update the layout. And obviously the other way is for you guys adding value to your customers is to either copy the layout and make an alternative or edit the layout to include more content. But this is obviously a very different way of working to total free reign. And there'll be times where you pick and choose. I imagine that if you want customers to build a landing page from a set of pre-built layouts, this is perfect. They can't break it. You can give them as much control as you want them to have and no more. You can turn off all of the settings that you don't want them to see, like the style tab, maybe. I'll show one more bit and I think it'd be great to get some feedback on that. But the second, so there's 3 types of content that I'm sort of wanting to focus on is static content like this, either edited the current way or this structured way. Then there's dynamic content, which we already have and we'll come back to. And then there's the third type that I just want to show you quickly, which is taking this concept of JSON structured content a little bit further. What we can do is bridge the gap between static and dynamic a bit better. So currently, our team or a team layout is a tricky one. When we're building layouts, we don't necessarily know whether, well, it's both, it's static and dynamic. But there are times when you wouldn't necessarily want to have a web app for 4 people or 2 people, let's say. And in Studio currently it'll appear as a sort of liquid tag, which is a bit clunky from a customer experience. So we want to give you the option to just insert a static layout like this, and then you've got your JSON on the right hand side that kind of controls the title and description, but you've also got this kind of structured content concept, a bit like web apps, a bit like dynamic content, where you can add multiple items because you've already got that structure defined in the layout. This is a really kind of powerful middle ground, I think, that will become more and more useful for whatever it might be, sliders, team services. There's so many types of content that doesn't fully need to go fully dynamic. I'll quickly show the others, but then we can always jump around and get your feedback. So dynamic content, something at the moment you don't have in the Studio is the ability to insert a layout or insert the blog list view, let's say. At the moment in Site Builder, you would go and install a layout, and then in Studio, you've got to put the liquid tag in. One big improvement, I think, would be being able to pick your dynamic layout here, click insert, it creates it, but you to be able to then set up your liquid settings to define how it would output. So this would be a live update in the middle. It'd be rendering the dynamic content and based on the settings that you've given it. So exactly like with Toolbox at the moment, you can pick the category, how many items, sort type, that kind of stuff, but you'd be able to do it all visually in one place and see the rendered output before you even even save the page. So quite a bit there. I might jump back to this one because I think it's probably the most relevant middle ground, but any immediate thoughts or feedback on this route?
I did have a question about this one. I'm glad you went back to it. This is exciting. This is great. This is the category that I would have said Siteglide needs to do better. The items here that are collection items, are those drawing from web app data? Like, is that the idea that they'd be coming from web apps?
So in the example I've given, I would say this isn't. This is JSON structured data, but it could look exactly like this and come from a web app as well, where effectively
in the
like,
dynamic, if you
more like this one, yeah. in this
Yeah.
section dynamic, you would then have team, let's say,
Yeah, got it.
or whatever it might be, and it would be the same as this, where you're then defining
Yeah.
the structure. But then, yeah, you're right. You'd want to be able to define. We haven't decided yet. So there's three parts to dynamic to consider. There's the output and the setup. There's the
Mhm.
layout, and then there's the data. And whether we can get it so that you can potentially work with all three in one interface
Like add
is
an
a
item
challenge.
from like
Yeah,
adding an item from this window. Yeah.
so like that
Um, yeah, like add an item there. Yeah, I mean
would be lovely.
that would
But
be amazing. That's less jumping around. I mean just the value of the import and export of data is not, that's important to maintain for sure. Because like if we
I
have
don't
an
think
our
it would have
team,
any impact on that. Sorry.
yeah, no, I was just gonna say making sure we can still export and import data uh in the dynamic areas will be really important. But yeah, that's great. And the layouts, just because I think this would probably be a question others would ask too, the layouts would be something that, of course, you might have some starting point layouts like what we're looking at, but they would also be something that we could define
Yeah,
and then populate in this little picker. Like we could decide on a
yeah.
side-by-side basis, like these are the layouts this site gets to use.
You already can with the current Studio One on the right hand side, but we want to make that better and easier for you to
Yeah,
be able to control it per site or for all your
yeah.
sites, or yeah, much more control over that.
And the little Webflow like left column, which allow
Yes.
like is that would the idea be there like I could drag my title below my description kind of situation or not really?
I mentioned in the call this morning that I'm not sure whether we would even keep this bit. That's exactly what it could be for. I don't know how well
Mhm.
it works with. Yeah, I mean that would be a great way to add more flexibility to layouts.
Oh,
So yes,
just to jump in, that would be possible if you enable it in your layout, essentially. So it's essentially how far you go with creating your layout. But generally, if you
Mm.
follow, and we'll come up with a prescribed way of this is our best recommendations for building a layout. But as long as you follow that, it should be possible.
Yeah.
got another example I can show, but does anybody have any other feedback at the moment? I want to make sure everyone make sure, yeah, we get a chance to discuss where we're up to.
I mean it's a mashup of kind of the best concepts out there. I mean, when I think about best editing concepts I've encountered, it's Webflow, which has some problems, and then Shopify is pretty good, pretty great too. And this is actually borrowing from both or building on both, whatever we want to say it. Inspired by both. Yeah. So
Yeah, I
to some
think
degree, yeah.
our current version of Studio is probably more towards Webflow, and I think that's part of the problem, to be honest. Webflow is fantastic for what it
Yeah,
does,
yeah, yeah.
but
Yeah.
working with dynamic content and also not wanting the customer to have too much control means we want to
Yeah.
be able to bring the experience back more towards the Shopify end as well. But we also want to
Yeah.
give you everything in between, and that's the tricky bit. We want the user roles to kind of let you decide what kind of experience your team and your customers have. So neither's wrong. If any, yeah, ideally it's a mashup. You have everything.
But either way, it's like it brings the product, it brings Siteglide more in line with the market, and like now you can, your apples and oranges, your apples to apples more with the leading platforms. When you go to a client, you're like, this is what the experience would be like. I understand there's clients that will never see the back end of a Siteglide site, and that's fine. And we can put them to the side for a minute, like because we have those clients too. DJ, I know you have those clients. Like you don't, they're not never going to edit anything, but like there will be others that will fall into this
I
category.
have one, maybe two, out of about 20. that I'm currently managing, that would favor, updating their own content. So I like this idea of the JSON format removing the styling piece, because
Yeah.
that's part of, one of the reasons why I'm so adamant about insisting that no, I'll take care of it for you. Just email me, or I'll even create a workflow for you to make it as simple as possible for you to tell me what you want changed, and I'll make it, easy for you to get that information to me, specifically because they tend to get in there and, oh, let's underline this and let's italicize it and let's, like,
Yeah.
and then it looks
Terrifying.
like, yeah, it, like, totally. Anyway, so yeah, I like
Yeah,
the idea of removing that capability. Yeah.
I agree.
It's a real challenge to come up with the right solution. I think the right solution is have all the options in an ideal world and be able to pick and choose and turn them off accordingly. Because even within a site, you might have pages like landing pages that you want the customer to be able to control the content on, and it'd be really prescriptive. And then there'll be other parts that you just want to build, and you don't want to be held up by JSON structure and all that kind of stuff. So we want to kind of give you total free reign and the ability to control what other people can do. I think there's one more point then that definitely adds a dimension to the melting pot is Steve in the call earlier. I'm glad he mentioned it because it's been going around my mind. He mentioned he felt that whether we should be spending so much time on something like this versus potentially other roadmap items, which is an important point. But his reason was that he thinks it would be this kind of tool might need to be so customized on a per client basis. He thinks he would end up building a front end tool to manage landing pages, as an example. So he'd build like a web app builder, if you see what I mean. So a front end form submit, form management for web app items that are quite structured. And I think that was a really good point, because I've been thinking whether this tool should effectively be a front end tool that can also be used at the back end. So to give you a quick example of that, and then we can talk about that more, because I think it's a really important point. Josh has put together a very quick demo just to help visualize what that could look like, what this sort of JSON editing experience could look like. Do not take anything from this. This is not we're not, it's a demo. It even uses a bit of Shopify's layout, just in terms of a web, the actual layout, just to give an idea. So it's not the product itself, but I'll quickly show it. It's a good reference point. So I'll go back to beginning quickly. So you'd be able to pick a page. As I mentioned, ideally, I'd love it so that I think it's a nice experience. When you're in a page or in this editor, you would be able to quickly switch out pages if you want to. You can, rather than having to go through the whole sort of left-hand menu experience, which again, it requires more training with customers, the idea of being able to quickly switch out and stay in one place. But the idea here is that the page is built up of sections. Again, this is just a very basic free layout design that can be used. And being able to like add blocks and sections into the page. So let's add a image with text. So you'll see one there. If I add another one, it'll appear at the bottom. And then when you're in that section, you can then start to do things with it. So you can say that you want the image to be second. You can start to change the color scheme. And again, the JSON defines what you can do. So you can customize what appears in the right-hand side to control what the customer would be able to what the customer would be able to do with the tool. And obviously then you can go into each of the elements as well and say that I want the heading to some extra content in there. And all we're doing on the left, on the main area, is rendering and live outputting. So pretty much in all of these experiences, we would be switching to rendering rather than you editing in that area. The only one where we would still
Right.
need the editing is the kind of Webflow style, which we go from that being 100% of the time as we have it now to just being when you want the customer to have free reign, which
Mhm.
we won't know. We won't know until you're doing it per project, probably how much you might use that. But I think by having these different ways of working, it gives you the flexibility to set it up for the client. Sorry,
This
Devin,
is
did you
really
want to
nice.
jump in?
I was just gonna say I like this a lot, because I could see, again, it solves the problem for anybody, and then it doesn't solve problems that we don't need solved, right? Like user permissions allows you to decide, I definitely don't want my client changing my content alignment, but I can think of, I mean, I would love to change content alignment with this drop down versus going in and changing a class, like, and updating a CSS file. I would use it.
Yeah,
Um, and then you could train your team on it too. Like if you were like you're suddenly able to do some things that you need your development team to execute for you, per se. So yeah, I think this. So help me just, Luke, mentally, because I know we're looking at like two different things. Like help me
yeah.
understand this kind of demo on the right with the different
Hmm.
adjustments to, I'm going to call styling,
Hmm.
just for lack of a better term. You're saying that those options might show in your original Figma design, sort of like below, like further down on, yeah, okay, yeah, in the style
Up
tab.
here,
Yeah,
yeah. We
got it,
just
got it.
separate those two. Again, for user roles, it's nice because we can just totally turn off. You could just
Just
turn
turn
off the
it
whole
off.
of the style
Yeah.
tab, or you could turn off
Yeah.
the specific items that you want to hide. But yes,
And then it's
essentially this
the other
demo
thing.
here is, sorry, this demo here is this design. It's
Yeah.
literally editing the well, up here you're editing the content effectively, which is what I was mainly showing.
I would just point out one other thing I really like about all of this, which is that it's very like framework agnostic. So like we build a bunch of Bootstrap sites. DJ, I know you do the same. Like we haven't used Flowby or Tailwind, but like if somebody wanted to build with Tailwind, they could do Tailwind stuff with this, or they could do Bootstrap, or it doesn't really matter, right? Like this is
Definitely.
separate from those frameworks entirely,
So
which kind of has been the sticky, like the sticky
yeah.
place you're in right now, right? Is like you got to pick a lane. Yeah,
And that's another type of person that I haven't mentioned that we need to consider. We need to consider agencies, developers, marketers, site owners, but we also need to consider theme builders effectively. So,
right.
DJ, if you end up doing that, then we need to make sure that it's accessible for somebody who wants to build out a theme, whether it's to go into the marketplace or Devin, you might be building out layouts that you share to your customers as a value add, or as you build a site you might build it so they can build out landing pages. So we need to make it really accessible to the theme builder as well. The only real difference is this agnostic, as you say, you have your own code base. All you'd pretty much need to do is make sure that you follow like a section format. You'd need to
Yeah.
define sections, and you would need to add the JSON in for as much as you choose to control. So like
Yep.
at the moment you can only edit the heading here, but
Hmm.
you can control how much JSON you add effectively to make your layout more valuable
Yeah,
or
yeah.
more strict, however you want it to be.
I guess the other thing I would ask about, because I'm just thinking about the greater community, is like I don't use the CLI much, but I know people do and are trained to do it and they like it. And so like this is something that would be really valuable, but isn't necessary to build in Siteglide, right? Like, would you have to use this, or like, I'm kind of thinking backwards compatibility. You know what I mean?
No,
Like
definitely
the
not.
rest of Siteglide
No.
would continue to exist as it does today, but
Yeah.
this on top of it, in case you want to use it, is like this would be my new way, but it wouldn't have to be everyone's new way.
Definitely, there's no way we're going to steer away from the flexibility and total control that you have currently.
Yeah.
If anything, we're going to keep going in that direction, but we're going to
Yeah.
work out whether a tool like this is a standalone tool, as in a site builder kind of tool, or whether it's a more integrated part of the experience in the admin, which is where this is going. And I think that's still the bit that's a little unclear as to whether Steve's point is this could be really valuable as a front end tool that you guys get to customize for your customers who log in front end, um, or is it just a tool that you could use as part of the back end experience? And I feel like it. I feel like it needs to be both. Otherwise, we're not gonna not gonna cover both angles. Sorry,
I
that's a
mean,
bit of a complicated answer.
I assume the reason why, to Steve's point, you had said earlier that it even kind of sort of posed the question, do we really need to be spending time doing this? And I assume that the reason why you guys are putting time, as much time into this as you have been, is because there is a demand for it, I guess, right? There's a lot of people that want this ability, or are you
To,
guys
to,
just doing this on your own?
to clarify, we're putting time into the idea and the planning of where the product should go in the future. And I think it's partly to Devon's point of it brings it up to a level playing field with what's maybe expected of the editing experience, especially from a customer perspective. So I said in the call this morning, part of our job is making sure that your customers are happy. If we can make sure they're happy, then they're not saying to you, "Sorry, we're wanting to go in a different direction." So
Yeah,
it's a lot of
your system
moving
doesn't
parts.
allow me to do this like it does over here, so I'm gonna leave you because I want to do it over
Yeah,
here, that kind of concept. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because I
hopefully the
just
other way
saw.
around. Sorry, so I was just going to say,
Yeah, because
hopefully
I
they
just
come to
saw
you
like an.
saying, "Sorry, Dem, go ahead."
No, I was just gonna say because there's already a bunch of AI stuff that's popping up that's going to draw people in. Like if this platform doesn't move in more of this direction, I think that will be. I mean, I could list off the reasons why those AI things are not gonna like long term serve them well, but if you're not even like considering this like editing experience, then you'll just be too far behind it, I
Yeah,
think.
I think it's an important step to go forward with. I'm seeing this on other platforms as well, something very similar
Mhm.
to this. Um, and they're using very similar tools for making it possible for individuals to edit their site or whatever it is they're working on. But I can also see this platform, the level that you've got right here, being elevated again over the next year or two. So it's even easier for folks to update their content. But I'm seeing the same thing. I'm seeing this sort of thing on another platform that we're familiar with.
Yeah,
Luke, can I
Alexander
just
in the house representing. Woo, woo.
I think
I
you
was
need to
I was just gonna
if
ask
you don't
one
move
question.
forward or get ahead of that curve, then you're going to get left behind. And I think
Yeah,
things are moving
yeah,
so rapidly
yeah.
and AI is part of that, but not all of it. But I think people are expecting to see things on a certain level. And, if you don't do it, then again, you're going to get left behind, and that's not a good place to be.
yeah, agreed.
Yeah. Luke, I was just gonna ask about the front end thing. So like I get his point, which is that I mean if I'm understanding his point, it's that he would spend resources and time building something like this on the front end for his customers so they don't log into Siteglide to make edits, that they would have a front end login editor limited in whatever way that he wants to limit it. Like he gives them the keys to certain parts of the castle. But like if Siteglide's menu, for example, is going to become completely customizable, if
Mhm.
like what is the advantage for him to go build a front end thing other like what why does he want to keep them out of Siteglide altogether? If he can literally toggle everything on and off, relabel everything, re-logo everything, like what is the
Yeah.
advantage?
I don't want to speak too much for Steve, but I think he was saying rather than wanting to, I think he was suggesting that he should, because he thinks that the use cases will be so varied that it's impossible for us to cover everything at the back end. So he was kind of saying, don't worry about it. I'll deal with it at the front end, rather than saying he wanted to.
Hmm.
But I mean, this conversation, there's a lot more. There's so many parts to all of this. There'll be some cases where it's that answer, and some cases where uh, if it could all fit into the back end, people would far rather that because you're not doing a lot of heavy lifting at the front end. And I'm sure he would say that in some cases as well. So this is my challenge, or our challenge is there isn't one solution here. We've got to try and cater for various types of users, various types of end products and solutions, and each one has a slightly different combination of optimum tools.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
think,
one other point I would make is maybe how you get into this, right? So like like what we're looking at the screen, if it's an editor and I click the editor button and then I'm in the editor, now I can pop around from page to page. Uh, is there a reason for me to pop into a web app table, which then displays this way? I don't, do you know what I'm getting at?
Yeah,
Like,
I do. Yeah. Where do we draw the line?
because right now, if I go into a web app table, all I see is a table and I don't see any layouts, right? So I wonder, that's not like a must have, but I'm wondering if that also solves what he's looking for to some
Yeah.
degree.
But then I still think there might be the question that you do want to do some front end content management as well. Like if you
Yeah,
have built a portal, let's say, where every user of the portal is actually managing their own directory profile,
right.
maybe you actually want the profile to be a page and you'd want to use the page builder, like this kind of feature. So there's
Yeah.
an argument and an element to making this kind of API driven so that it can be used in various ways, but at the same time also don't want to make it so complicated we never get there.
Yeah. I think
Tricky.
stay the course that you're on. I don't want to muddy the water there. But it's great. Yeah, it's great work. I mean, I love that you're even thinking about it, that you guys are meeting as a team about it. Josh's demo is great. Let us know how we can keep giving you feedback.
Yeah, I mean, just one more point from this morning's call that Nick said back to your question, DJ, and everybody's comments really, yours, Alexandra, as he said, having a tool like this will, Nick said, having a tool like this will help him sell, even if he knows that the client will never actually use it or,
right,
rarely use it. But it's that
right.
point, isn't
Right.
it? You need to be able
I
to tick
think
the boxes of what the platform can do.
most of
Yeah,
my
to be
clients
able to
do not
say
want to
that,
get in here to change things. They just want to know that they could do it if they wanted to or had to.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
gives them that sense of
yeah.
control over it, especially with things like the team. They would be able to change out the team pictures because people come and go. But
Yes.
overall, they really don't want they don't want to spend the time doing it because they're not the experts in that area. They're expertise is somewhere else.
Yeah,
Yeah, to be
exactly
able
that.
to say, the platform that we use is in keeping with others on the market in the sales process, yeah, why wouldn't you want to say that?
Right.
Yeah.
Or in
Yeah.
some cases, it's really on the cutting edge.
Yeah, because
Because
I mean,
others
Yeah.
I
are
could show you
falling behind.
screenshots. I could show you screenshots of the platforms I was describing earlier. And just, I mean, if you went into a C-level meeting with screenshots of this, not that the C-level people care at all about how a website gets edited, but if I A-B'd the two, one looks like a like Windows 97 interface looks terrible, and then this looks modern. So it's like, okay, if you're
Right.
building a case that you're on a modern platform, you're on a platform that's forward facing, where the infrastructure is solid. This helps build that case. And the other thing that they can just look at and be like, this thing looks creaky and old, and I don't know anything about computers, is what they would say. You know, it just builds that case.
And then unfortunately, you've got the other example where you've got the really shiny tools that have got all the UI and marketing to
Mhm.
say it does all these amazing things, but actually, when you want to try and do something, you hit
Yeah.
limitations. And they're the most frustrating ones because
Hmm.
us being able to allow you to hit any kind of, achieve anything, that's very hard for you to um, demonstrate and show. It's hard for us to demo that, whereas it's very easy to demo a nice slick UI. So I
Yeah.
feel like we've done the hard work to a big extent.
Hmm.
We've got the flexibility. We now need to show how easily you can leverage that flexibility. That's my belief.
I mean, just one more selling point in those conversations is like, in a lot of those organizations with the old creaky thing that costs a lot of money and they don't want to leave it. It's like there are bottlenecks inside the organization that keep them from moving quickly. So they'll be like, oh, we have to send web updates to IT because IT is the only people who know how to do a thing. It's like, okay, well, what if, your marketing department could actually update this little chunk, and your events department could actually update this little chunk, and they just had the keys and they didn't have to pipe it all through Bill in IT, because Bill's stack of tasks is just getting taller by the day, and they know that. Like, it's just there's so much, yeah, there's a lot of value to sell.
I think quickly on that point, also you guys don't want to end up being Bill in IT. Like if we don't give you the
Yeah.
tools to let your customers edit when they demand it, you are maybe Bill in IT. And they have to send something to you, and then over the Christmas break it's more pressure to get it done. So I know, like this morning people said, look, most of my customers won't use it, but I think the way everything's going, as you said, Alexandra, like with everything that's coming in, AI and sort of companies taking more control internally, they have to have the ability to. Whether they do or not is another matter.
They just want to feel like it. They just honestly, I don't know if it's happening in other parts of the world, but people are afraid things are going to blow up and they have no control over it. And especially their website. So they just want to know that they could do it if they had to. If something
Yeah.
like,
Mhm.
and I've had clients say this to me, if something happens to you, what happens to me? Honest to goodness, they get so
Yeah,
worried about
that's
these
a
things.
great, yeah. Or
And
if you don't, I mean, if your model is you are taking care of all the edits for them, like something like this allows you to delegate like things to a lower, like a more entry
an
level
admin
person on your
assistant,
team.
right,
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely. And then go in and change that content, and
Yeah.
get the things done and up to date. So if I fall down and break my ankle or whatever, and I
Yeah.
can't get to the office, I'm okay. Yes.
Hmm.
I'm surprised you don't use
Breaking time.
CLI, Devin. I think you would like it.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I think it's been more, maybe that's true, DJ. Maybe that's true. We'll see. We'll see how fast this happens, and maybe I'll if
Take
it,
some time to dive in. Yeah.
If it
yeah.
helps,
Well, I have
I
a
I was just going to say quickly on that, if it helps, I took a conscious decision earlier this year to properly use CLI and understand it because I wasn't
Mhm.
doing, and it's a big part of the product. And it was
Mhm.
surprisingly easy to, once you just get used to a couple of bits of the flow of just in your
Mhm.
head to pull and then sync and that kind of stuff. Even using the
Mhm.
Tailwind route is actually pretty easy once you get into it. So yeah, definitely recommend it.
Cool.
So when we get to the roadmap section, I haven't looked at the roadmap lately, in all fairness, but I do have a roadmap item that I think, well, I guess I would ask the question, what do you guys think of the idea of building in analytics and that it's maybe driven by AI. Because
Ah,
I think that would be very powerful, you know. I mean, yes, we have Google Analytics. Yes, we can link it up. Yes, I can build a studio layout to send the customer to see certain metrics and all of that. But I think it would be really, really valuable to have it baked into Siteglide so it can be a screen option for the admin section. When you log in, you can go to analytics and you can see probably maybe even better metrics than what could be gained from Google,
Yeah.
because it would be baked into the platform. But if it could have an AI kind of sort of support, if you will, you know, like through AI, it populates that screen with those metrics. I think it's about time SiteGlide consider something like that, maybe. What do you guys think?
yeah,
What
I think
would be
metrics would be
the,
great.
I think it's a cool idea. I'm not sure what specifically would be the things that you would be interested in measuring. I can think of a couple, but I'm just curious what things you would measure.
The main things that marketer people would want to know, right? You know, like how many site visits to this page, how long were they on the page, where did they come from? You know, just the top things that people would want to know. You know, like if, for example, we spun up a campaign, you know, right? We created a landing page, we gave it a specific URL, or we used a custom, URL, like a redirect, of sorts or something like that, and we wanted to know, or these people, marketing oriented people or whatever, or even just for us to say, okay, you asked us to set up this campaign for you. Here are the Here's where we're at so far, you know, with it. This week we had this many people go to the page or whatever, you know, simple things like that that aren't so bloated that you get in Google Analytics. It gets down to the top things that people want to know without having to go through the big complexity of getting that information from Google Analytics, that kind of thing.
I actually use a tool that has its dashboards, but it has all the different integrations that you put right into it. So you just pick up the integration and it'll pull that data in depending on how you want it presented. And it's very user friendly. So I think basic analytics would be great on the website, but if you want to get into something that encompasses a lot of different tools, like, you know, we've got Google Analytics, but you might have some marketing tools or other tools out there, then I'd recommend using this marketing dashboard tool. And you can just price it out depending on how many customers you have. But it'd be nice to have some
Yeah, I
basic
think the
analytics.
biggest idea that where I'm coming from is this idea that because this screen of metrics would be baked into the platform, that it would be more accurate, if you will,
Mm.
than a third party, you know. But if there's
To
no
show an actual
correlation to that,
activity on the
or
website.
anything,
So you're
yeah,
talking actual activity on the website rather than just Google having to pick up everything.
It's
Relying.
such an
right.
interesting It's so interesting though, because if you remember back to the BC days, BC had that on the dashboard and it was
Yes.
such different data to Google, and you'd have to explain to a customer, well, why are the numbers different? So
Yes, I remember those
in a way,
conversations. I do.
you don't want different data. It's a really good point, but I don't know the answer. I think SiteGlide should provide data that Google can't provide. So like secure zone logins, something like that.
Yeah.
Google's not going to
Those are
get that
the,
or as well, maybe.
That makes
yeah.
sense.
I was gonna say the three that I can think of that SiteGlide would have that Google doesn't is like revenue, through a form. You could right now you'd have to export that and add it up, and that nobody wants to do that, right? So like revenue through a form, Google won't have that unless you send it to them, and even then, sometimes it's not accurate. Secure zone logins, secure zone like maybe
Sign up.
where they're going within the secure zone, search, site search, like site searches. That is also something that Google Analytics can track, but you got to configure it. And again, it's not always accurate. Those are, we're searching through a Siteglide form, so it should. Those are great examples of things that I can think of. I mean, case data we already have, but it'd be nice if the reporting module in Siteglide, you could do a little bit more with the case data, but that's too vague. Yeah, you're right, Luke. There's definitely stuff that Siteglide has that takes work to set up in Google Analytics. That's unique. And
I think
then, yeah.
That
you
would be the
combine it
other
with
pain point, that I was bringing that up for, though, is because of having to set up a Google Analytics instance every time I spin up a website. If I don't have to do that or spend time doing that because it's already there in the platform for me, then that's another,
don't you have
step that
to
I don't have to take, as a
don't you have to do
developer.
it though? Do you have to do it for Google effectively? I don't know if you're going to get around that.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
Just some
agree. I don't like
thoughts.
doing it.
Just some thoughts. Yeah.
I think the point is just having even just some basic stuff that's sort of out of the box for clients that really don't care about using Google Analytics or stuff like that, but they might just want to see, how many page views did I have today, just at a glance, and being able to enable that for clients as an out-of-the-box functionality, I think would be quite nice. I sent you a link in chat, Luke, at something
Yeah,
that.
I'll show that in a second. I think linking it with Alexandra's point about integrations and dashboards, being able to pull data in. Obviously, we've got the new integrations feature as part of automations. We don't have data coming into Siteglide yet, but once you have that, you could build out some really nice dashboards with third-party data as well as Siteglide data as well as Google data effectively, and then you've kind of got the best of both worlds. And maybe you pick, and we have some pre-built ones that pick the right ones from each. So I don't think we should try and do what Google do, and I don't think we should try and do what anybody else does really well. But trying to pull it all together, totally take your point, DJ, that would remove the onus on you to do all the clunky setup. So,
very
but I
simple.
don't think we should replace Google Analytics. I don't think, because there's already, as Josh has mentioned, there's already people like these guys that already they do that. They've gone down the route of providing an alternative. I think if we did anything, we would work with we would make this one of the integrations that you've mentioned, Alexandra, where you can just pull that in as a dashboard,
I
or
use
just make the integration
agency
easier.
analytics.
Yeah, I used to use those. Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
they've updated that as well.
Yeah.
I talked to him a few years ago, and yeah, that's a good option too.
So that's a great example of just pulling together stuff that, yeah, what we wouldn't recreate it, we'd just pull it together.
Yeah, if
I
you
don't know
had
if you can
data that you
embed
could pull
these,
into
but
this, I'm sorry. If you had data that from our SiteGlide that could go into this, it would be awesome.
that's probably the better way around to do it, isn't it? And I guess you can embed these into a iframe or a page, so you
Yeah.
could essentially put them into Portal as well, into SiteGlide.
Yeah, so maybe it's just making that data accessible to us, right? Like those specific things.
Exactly.
I have to jump, everybody. I'm sorry, but thank you for the great conversation.
Yeah, thanks, Devin. Appreciate the wins
See
as
you,
well. Always
Devin.
good to hear.
All right.
Well, happy Christmas and New Year to you and to everybody if we don't speak before then. But yeah, let you go. Cheers.
Hi, Devin.
Oh, yeah, apologies. Yeah, there's a lot to talk about. Yeah, feel free to raise anything.
I think integrating with other tools would be a simpler approach for you folks and
Mhm.
allow us to do some of those other things that we are trying to achieve without having to rebuild, sort of reinvent the wheel for the wheel that's already been out there. So that makes a lot more sense. And so if you could integrate with something like agency analytics, that would be really terrific.
Yeah, totally
Just for
agree. I
those
think it's
other
a great
things, and
solution.
then that creates a nice report for the client.
Yeah. Do you know if you can embed it easily into a site? I assume you can.
I haven't tried it, so.
Okay. I mean,
But
even if they go somewhere else for that, but
I
yeah.
have several sites that we do reportings for. And we have like a kitchen cabinet company we just launched. One we actually have two, owned by the same people, two different companies. They look like they're competitors on the customer side, but they're really not. And we could integrate both of those. One of them, we're actually doing reports through agency analytics. So, and the person who's heading up that particular shop has lots of questions about marketing. So being able to show that people have done certain things on their Siteglide site and that's not showing up in the regular reporting, I think would be helpful to them. Almost like a Hotjar. A Hotjar has like heat maps where it shows where people like spend a lot of time reading this particular paragraph because that's content was very interesting to them. When they did certain other sorts of activities, that would be pretty amazing. Because then you
Yeah.
can hone in on the details of what's working on your site, what's not working, or could be elevated or expanded or whatever.
Yeah, I'm just gonna write that down as an idea. I think it's a really good topic. Like by data effectively, data analytics, and then feed to integrations, agency analytics. Yeah, brilliant. I just checked. You can with agency analytics, you can share a URL
Oh,
of the report with no login required. So effectively, you should be able
okay.
to iframe that into Siteglide if you
Oh,
wanted to.
oh, good. That's good to know.
Mhm.
So is agency similar to plausible? Are they the same thing? Or
No, so Plausible is a replacement for Google Analytics, and Agency Analytics is more of like bring all of your data into one
dashboard?
place and visualize
Right.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And visualize it and then be able to send out monthly reports to clients if you want to, and you can add some content in there saying on this is what we were supposed to be doing this month, this is what we accomplished, and this is what we're going to be doing going forward, that sort of thing. So you can tailor it a little bit
The
and
reason
create a monthly report for clients.
the reason I mentioned plausible leak was because it's open source under AGPL and can be self-hosted. It's also cookieless as well, so there's no need to add it to privacy policy or anything like that. So yeah, as something that's out of the box that doesn't require any setup, I think it would be good. But yeah, definitely having something more expansive like agency analytics would be interesting as well.
yeah, interesting. I've looked at another one of these, like Plausible actually. The only thing I don't know is whether if you don't have Google Analytics on your site, whether your SEO is massively affected. So I think you might end up with duplication anyway. Not sure.
I think that's fine. Based on how lightweight plausible is, it says it's 75 times smaller than GA. I think it's fine just to have it as an option that's built in, regardless, so that it is there. I mean, I've got a load of sites where clients just don't care about analytics at all, but I still like to see how the site is performing.
Yeah, agreed. Cool. Yeah, I've got that down. That'd be a really good feature.
Just a thought. Yeah, just a thought.
Yeah, anything like that, really, really good. So yeah, I mean, feel free if you've got any more right now, but I'm going to be thinking about how we can make it easier for you guys to suggest those kind of things. We review and like the problem we have currently with the roadmap is it's full of stuff. People voted on some of those things a long time ago, and we don't really have any clarity. We've got a lot of things that we can't possibly do all at once. So I'm going to look at that and work out how we can find a better way to have these kind of discussions, come out with tangible things that everybody thinks or a few people think are good. We then get it into a list where we can get everybody's input and get some proper kind of priority around that finite list rather than just a massive list
To-do
that isn't
list.
manageable. Yeah, exactly.
That makes
So
sense.
so do send across any, like, feel free to raise ideas. It's really good to have these kind of discussions, I think, and make sure we're on the right track.
Sounds good.
Cool. Okay, I'm conscious of everybody's time. Yeah, was there anything else, or should we leave it there for today, do you think?
I don't have anything else
I don't
myself.
either.
Okay, well, yeah, we'll get cracking on all of that, and hopefully we'll have a January town hall where we can really nail down some key things to focus on and get a bit clearer on the immediate roadmap. But in the meantime, hope you all have a fantastic, well, hopefully have some time off at least, a bit of a break, recharge the batteries. Enjoy Christmas and a happy New Year.
Sounds good. Happy Christmas,
Yes.
Merry Christmas.
Yes. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Thanks, Luke. Thanks, Josh.
Cheers, guys. Good to speak.
Catch up with you next
Yeah.
year.
Yes, sounds good.
Bye, Alexandra. Talk to you later.
Bye, DJ.
Speak soon. Bye.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye.